I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
And this is In the Woods, I Am Your Flesh.
Gross. That actually sounded really disgusting when you said that.
You know what's funny is like, you've been saying like for the last couple of days, let's do this one. I'm like, no, let's just do. I've literally been avoiding it because the title sounds gross to me.
Oh, really? That's why you've been avoiding it?
Well, I mean, I'm sure I could find a business reason to annoy it too. For timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up in Middle America with Vin and Sori. There are multiple ways to get your song reviewed. Dear listener, was this an alliance pick? This is an alliance.
Yeah. What's on? Oh, there it is.
What alliance? It's our lyrics.
This is the Epic Underground.
Epic Underground.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
now just drink your warm Red Bull. How disgusting.
Shout out to Drew, the big homie. Drew is the leader of the Epic Underground, and I Am Your Flesh from the band In the Woods.
It's avant-garde progressive metal.
So look, guys, what happens is you've seen in other reaction channels they cut the song up and things like that. And the reason they do that is because you can monetize your videos and make decent money off of it.
I'm taking my vitamins again.
If you play the song all the way through, though, you can't do that.
Right.
Okay? So that's what happens. You play the song all the way through, and they demonetize your account, or they send the money that you were going to make to the record label. So, having said that, the simple solution for that is to look at other alternatives. So what we did was we went with Patreon, right? Mm-hmm. So $1 at the gate gets you in. You join an alliance. You got an alliance leader, like a guy like Drew or Chris Culp, and they organize stuff, and then that helps with songs that we do. Now, if you don't want to do that option, there's also the Ronin option or the Filthy Capitalist option. $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You do that 3 times fast, you get down to the $75 rate for all perpetuity. Having said that, In the Woods, I Am Your Flesh. Let's go.
Shoot, I just dropped my vitamin. I have to get it because I'm afraid that the babies will end up getting it.
Yeah.
Can you back up your chair? Oh, babe, I can't leave it there.
Comedy of errors.
Comedy
of errors.
Ready?
Yeah, I've been ready. I've been born ready, loser.
Oh, okay. Well, you should have said so.
Peter Steele.
I just got such a weird, gross feeling.
No one to hold. I am alone, just fighting against this despair.
Wow. Giving me so many goosebumps.
See some Neo in this, or I see some this in Neo. 1997.
What the fuck's he saying? I don't know. I have never had a song give me as many goosebumps as that one did.
Really?
I don't know if it was like
They were all positive goosebumps? Or
No,
just
they were just goosebumps. They were all like
Freaky.
all over the place. Yeah, because there was like it was like kind of like the sound. The sound kept changing, and then first of all, babe, I can't hear what you're saying when you talk to me during the song. You can't hear through the
I was
headphones.
talking to the audience.
You were not. You looked at me. I heard there's headphones out there that you can like still hear the person beside you, but it like has the music. But anyway, that's not what we have. So Vinny was saying something, and I don't know what he said. What did you say?
I said a couple things. They sounded like Neo. Like when
Oh, really?
there was like a rhythm change, I was like, oh, it sounds like Leo. And then I was like, well, Neo sounds like them. Because I knew somebody was going to be like, well, actually, because this came out in 97.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like this is like a, look at that, kairos. That's a Greek term. I feel like this is I don't know anything about this band. I've never heard of them before. But I felt like they had like a 2020 sound. I didn't think that they were 1997.
I felt like I heard some like kind of Peter Steele-ish sort of sound, and also some Maynard in there.
The vocalist, yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't hear any Maynard, but I did hear some Peter Steele for sure.
Maybe it was
kind of like
the "Tell Me Who I Am" part, or
yeah,
it kind of had that trippy sort of sound to it.
Yeah, I am your. So, what did you think of the title, and what did you think the song was about?
Well, my word, the title was just gross to me. I am your flesh in the woods.
Well, In the Woods is the name of the band.
Yeah, I know, but when you put it all together, and it's kind of like, and I think this picture,
I'm your
honestly,
flesh in the woods.
this picture is gross to me. I do not like those holes all in that picture of the album cover. It's
yeah.
so that's kind of like affecting my view of this whole thing, because that's probably where the goosebumps are coming from too, because I don't like stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you were able to
work with it.
survive it. But what did you think it was about?
And then past that, it was kind of like just, I don't know, like I kept going from feeling to feeling, and what I was seeing was like a person kind of like going around in the woods, and then they like dug a hole, and then there was stuff decomposing. It was just kind of like a grossness song. And
a grossness song.
Yeah.
It says.
But then it kind of seemed like when it said, okay, my eyes are closed, I feel alone, there's something on the inside dripping and screaming to get out, to be released and to let loose and free. And then, how can I feel love when love was something I never had? How can I feel? Talk to me, do you know me? It kind of seemed to me like sometimes there are, I don't know what this person was, but like sometimes you can feel like there's a certain part of yourself that you cannot express because of, for certain reasons. So like for me, because the environment that I grew up in, the religious environment,
right,
the way that it was, there was certain elements of my personality that I could not let out.
Right.
And, like dealing with depression and not being able to talk about it, not being able to even say, I am really, whatever. My mom said that when I was like really little, which I kind of think this might have more than one, answer to it, but she said I used to wake up just like crying.
You did?
Yeah. And she didn't know why I was doing that. I just would wake up crying. And I'm like that now. Like I'll wake up and I'll just be super depressed when I first wake up. And I have to kind of work myself out of it. And it's almost like an every single morning thing. Like getting out of bed and kind of starting the day is hard. Usually I like pump myself up by something exciting that I'm going to accomplish that day. And that's what gets me, really kind of helps me. Especially when you're when you're not in the room, sometimes that helps me and sometimes it doesn't when you're at work, because I know I can go in and like go hug you. So that helps me. I'll be like, well, I'll get up and bring a coffee to Vinny and hug him, and that will kind of help me get past those feelings. But sometimes I just wake up and I just have like horrible, horrible bad feelings. Like,
but what about your upbringing? What do you mean your upbringing? Like you were not allowed to be depressed as a Christian?
No, nobody. That was like something that those people get. Like if you're with God, then you're happy all the time and you have joy, and He saves you from everything. And
is that something you picked up, or was that something said directly to you?
Ooh, boy. I think that I heard it said to other people when my parents were like talking to them, and the joy of the Lord is your strength, and happy and stuff like that. And my parents were, they were pretty good about holding their own negative emotions from showing us kids. Like the kids will see me having a bad day. Like sometimes I go down and I'm like, wow, really?
Yeah. I think it's important to show kids that.
So they see, though I didn't see that with my parents. Until I hit a certain age. Like, I was well into my teen years by
Then
the
you
time
could
I
figure out,
saw
wait
that.
a second.
I was like, holy crap, this has been going on. You know what I mean?
Quite
like,
some time.
Yeah, but prior to that, I didn't know anything. I didn't see anything about it. But I remember them talking about depression. And, you know, other people have depression and they should get, if they got God, that would help them with that and stuff like that. And I just remember feeling like this heavy, horrible feeling, but I never said that's depression.
Wow.
And I remember actually when I was 15, I was talking to this other girl and she was like, you should just tell your parents that you're depressed. And I was like, why is she saying that? That's so weird. I'm not depressed. I thought she was telling me to lie to my parents. She said, what you should do is get a bunch of black paint and paint your entire room black and just lay in there. And they'll come in. I thought my parents will kill me. Not literally, but very close to that if I did something like that. But yeah, now I look back and I'm like, oh, she probably, you know how you can see something in other people?
Yeah.
Like you can tell? Maybe that's what was happening. She recognized.
Is that Jay?
No, I never actually talked about this girl. I do have one really weird, interesting story about her that I'm not going to tell on camera.
I'm sure.
Anyway.
I'm sure I can already guess where that one's going to go. Yeah, I initially was like, okay, this is a guy talking to his inner child. Right? But then I'm like, maybe he's talking about
dripping and screaming.
Maybe he's talking about his dad.
What? His dad?
So when he says, I am your flesh, you know how you say, oh, so-and-so is your own flesh and blood. How did you do this to your own flesh and blood? Right?
Yeah.
And he's saying, you made me. Right? It says, who made me? You made me. Right there. It's right here. If you can.
I know, but I'm looking at that part. Who made me? You made me.
Right? Tell me who I am and I'll tell you what's behind the door. There's a child that's waiting for you, no one to touch, no one to hold, and I'm alone just fighting against this disease. So I was like, okay, this is a guy who is dealing with depression, but part of the problem is that his father basically abandoned him. So there's a child waiting for you, you never touched him, you never held him, that type of thing. And he's alone now just fighting.
Yeah, but what's the door? I don't know. No, I think that's him inside himself.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I'm just telling you how I interpreted it.
Well, you're wrong. I'm just kidding.
The child's blood was made by you. Don't blame him. Right? And
the killings were made by you.
Don't you blame him. Like, so, but of course, it could very easily be, especially that line, don't blame him. It might be him talking to himself.
Yeah.
Or it might be both of us, and he might be saying, don't blame yourself. Blame him for abandoning you or whatever. But he's talking about being left alone right there. Lost my eyes, you left me alone. So I just think, like it's what is that? Father hunger is what Wilson called it. How can I feel love when love was something I never had?
But at the same time, it might be him separating from himself. I lost my eyes, I lost my head, my flesh, my heart. It's that,
Could be. It could be.
And I'm losing my mind.
We were watching this movie. I think it was around Friday. That Ben Shapiro movie actually, where the kids were these school shooters, and one of the kids, there's a confrontation between the protagonist and one of the shooters, and of course, this shooter is like this pathetic, kind of overweight kid who slurs a little bit, and I remember saying, like, this kid was casted perfectly for this role because he looked like he could have been a shooter. Like the main guy that was the shooter and his girlfriend, I'm like, he's got a great attitude and he's a great actor. I mean, he like you were like, but I'm like, this is not the type of guy that would do a school shooting. But the other kid, the chubby one, like, and just the way that he looked,
him and the other kind of
the girl.
No, the other guy that was kind of crazy. He kept hearing things. His sister got killed.
Oh yeah, him 100%. If you didn't know that guy, yeah, exactly. So like,
you'd see him and assume he was going.
It's weird. Like with these school shootings, like a lot of times, like people are saying, like, we knew it was going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very interesting. But there was this conversation between this kid, and he was talking about how he, when he was, she basically said, I don't care if your mommy didn't give you a lollipop. I didn't care if your dad cradled you when you were a baby. What you're doing is completely wrong. And of course, she had just seen people get killed in front of her. So, you can't judge her for, and obviously it's a fictional account, but I mean, obviously it's based on the reality, unfortunately, that many kids in America have to deal with these school shooters, people losing their minds and just nihilistically going for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, she basically said, I don't care, you're whining, none of that justifies any of what you just did. And of course, she's right, it doesn't justify it. But not having a parent, especially, I was thinking about we talked about this, like these kids in Russia, these horrible orphanages or whatever. And I remember listening to, because I will say one thing about, modern evangelicalism, especially American evangelicalism, is like, definitely there's a lot of problems, but the adoption stuff, I think, has been amazing. So like there's this one church that probably disagrees with about 90% of what we do and who we are and where we're at theologically, but they do a damn good job about adopting people. And their leaders are like at the front lines. Like they've only each got like 2 or 3 adopted kids. Like it became like a thing in that church. Like everybody just started adopting people. And I thought, I was like, yo, that's crazy. That's really, really cool. And I don't think we can estimate like the level of damage, man, that happens. Like if he's talking about his dad or whatever, right? I don't think we can underestimate like how important that is, like to be a kid and to not be held and things like that. Of course, in the movie, like you're obviously taking the protagonist's side because like you just live through the horror of watching these young kids get shot up and all that, and he's the guy that did it, So that's kind of like was like the soundtrack to that guy's life, as far as like how I was interpreting this song. I was like, it's in the mind of this kid. There's a child who's waiting for you, no one to touch, no one to hold, and then you kind of lose your vision for the future, and then he ends up losing his mind. I lost my blood, I lost my love, I lost my feelings. Like it really sets you on a very terrible trajectory, and like obviously it's terrible, but like the whole it really made me think, and it was interesting too, because I'm not gonna say that because I don't want to give the movie away to people, but I will say this to give credit to because I generally disagree on 99% of the things that Ben Shapiro is behind. But I do think that they did a good job of making the characters a lot more complex than meets the eye. Say it that way. And so I think they did a good job of it. But this whole thing where it's like this sort of dismissal of like childhood trauma, as far as it providing explanatory power for why people do what they do, I think we need to like step back and think it through. And of course, there's that age-old thing about like, how can you be angry at me? You made me. Like a lot of times, like there was like I was watching I think it was Manchurian Candidate or something like that, where it's basically this guy was working for the CIA, and he was doing X, Y, and Z thing, and then his mind was completely screwed up because of certain programs or whatever. And some of these programs, I mean, if you do a FOIA, they'll come out and say, yeah, these are real programs. I mean, do what you want with it. But there is a line where he basically said like, all these people are judging me, but you made me, type of thing, because there's all this mind control stuff that was happening and things like that. So it was a pretty crazy line where like you can even look at this as society. Sometimes like societies create these kind of monsters because they want to deploy the monster to go eat somebody else, and then the thing comes back as a monster still. Because you turn the person into a monster and you sick the monster on. So now the guys, so it's like, there are all these things in society that we do to kids, that are, I think like the school system that we have where, COVID kind of exposed a lot of like very questionable things about the institution of education, especially in
Yep.
our city where it's like,
Yep.
you know, none of the kids
Uh-huh.
basically went to school last year and they all got bumped up to the next grade. You
Lo
know,
and behold, some of the same stuff's happening again this
they're
year.
all doing distance learning, and like I think
one
the
little
number
girl
was
was
like
like-
90% of them weren't doing shit. But.
She's like, Miss Sori, I'm scared. And I was like, well, why are you scared? She's like, I'm scared because I'm going to the 5th grade next year and I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that. And I was like,
Right.
well, you know, I think that they're, you know,
Right.
I gave her some bullshit.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I think that they're preparing for that. They're going
Yeah.
to help you out.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that they're doing
complete bullshit.
something to
Complete bullshit.
try to, you know, make that transition a little smoother.
The whole thing is
I don't know
that-
what I'm going to tell her if she comes and says, you know, I really didn't do well in 5th and now I'm going to 6th.
Yeah, you just hey, marry rich. Just tell her to marry rich. That's
That's a nice dress you're wearing,
that's a
young
good
lady.
goal. Yeah, just marry rich.
You want to? You know
or
what?
Start a
This
YouTube
was
channel.
this was pretty sad. When I was coming back from college, there was a family. They were super rich. Well, that's who knows? That was the assumption made of them because they had a very nice house and he had a good job, I guess, and they had a nanny. That was another reason why they must have been super rich. And anyway, so somebody I knew was doing lawn work for these people and getting paid to do the lawn work. Well, they adopted 2 kids from another country, and then the husband and the wife ended up not doing well. I think the nanny became a thing for the guy, and so that caused a problem, and he cheated or something like that. But they ended up splitting up, and so they sent the kids back.
Well, there you go.
Like that's pretty traumatic. You know what I mean? Like
well,
you
yeah.
already were in a situation where you weren't with your parents, and then you finally get adopted, and you get adopted by like these rich people. So, like,
and then they
like-
sent her back.
and then they send then you get sent back.
That's brutal. It's brutal, man.
Yeah, that's and when I was like wishing that I could adopt them, but there was like 2 major reasons. One was I didn't have a husband, so that would have been like crazy to take on 2
You
kids.
could still adopt them.
Holy
being
moly.
married, but yeah. No.
And then 2 was like these kids were used to a certain lifestyle and they had been there for like long enough to where they were treating the people that I knew that were working there like they were the hired slaves, you know? Like they had already like acclimated to the rich lifestyle and they were treating them like you people beneath me. You know, so I was like, I could never, how would I?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways, like the whole "you made me" thing. Like, there's so many things that a society does to kids in particular, and then, like, at the same time, we'll say, "Hey, I got nothing to do with this." You know, it's like, you know, the whole school loan debt situation. Like, we
Right.
tell these people, like, unless you're educated in college, you're going to be a loser. Your life's going to be ruined. Blah 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 blah. So these kids get themselves in all this debt for college, and then you know, certain segments of society are like, hey, that personal responsibility, man. That's on you. So there's a lot of times where like society or a family or a parent will create a terrible situation for a kid or craft their identity. And obviously there's personal responsibility for sure. I mean, I believe in it for sure. But like usually the people creating those systems where those people are floundering in will never take any personal responsibility for creating the system that created the child. And of course there's the whole inner child thing, and I don't know. When I first heard about the whole inner child thing, I thought it was crazy. I thought it was like funny and laughable. But I first heard about it when I was a kid. So, as a kid, I'm like, this is ridiculous. Is a kid inside of you? Like, when you grow up, you grow up. Like, your voice changes.
It always made sense to me.
You know, your voice changes, all that stuff. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It
And my
always made sense.
mom used to laugh at it, you know, whatever. But obviously now, you know, it's a little bit different. You know, like it's the most obvious one to me is that when I think about my little brother, I call him my little brother, and he's got like 5 inches, I don't know about 5 inches, but he's got about 3.5 inches and like 100 pounds on me. Like, he's not my little brother. Like, he's much bigger than me. But to me, like, we're still those kids. You know, I talk about my big brother, you know, like, I'm bigger than him. You know, I'm bigger than my big brother, but like, I have that, like, so it's like, there is a sense in which I think, like, I feel like I haven't really progressed past childhood to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, as far as, like, my mindset. But at the same time, there's other very mature subject matters that happen in my mind, you know, a lot, and that I've taken part in, and whatever. But, yeah, like, that's a very strange situation. I've never really looked into the whole inner child thing and reconciling with your inner child, and I never will.
Why?
I just never will. But I just think it's a really interesting concept.
See, I never thought it was silly, but my mother was always, I'm not childish, but childlike.
It's true.
In the way that she was, and she's less like that now than she was when I was younger. You know what I mean?
Really?
So you can imagine how much
Your
she was.
mom-
She was just, you know.
Your mom is more teenagery to me.
Right.
Like, every time your mom comes to hang out, I'm always like, yo, we would have been a crew, bro. Like if all of us were in high school at the same time, we would have been a crew.
Oh, sometimes I think this weird thing where I'm like, what if me and my mother were the same age? Would you have picked me?
Of course you had to go there. Yeah, I would have picked you.
Oh, that's a definitive? Oh, that's cool.
Your mom would have been it would have probably ended in a very bloody fashion, though, because I would have loved your mother as a friend. I'm very happy. Like, I don't even feel like I could be your mom's friend to the degree that I am right now if she wasn't your mom. Because I genuinely love being around her as a person. Like, every time she's around, I'm like, yo, I could spend. Because there's people that, you know. But like I feel like I could spend like a lot of time with her. She loves, like, she's really deep and yeah, I just love your mother. I love your mother. But yeah, if we were in high school, that would have never worked. Because you would have blew it up at all. You would have 100%.
I would have too.
100%. And your mom, I mean, nobody looks like, I mean, you're a supermodel, but your mother's a very pretty woman. I mean, you're in a completely separate category, but she's a very, very pretty. So, like, it would have just been fun, but you.
I'm going to send her the link to this.
Not edifying. Not edifying. Shout out to the homie.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? Where was I going with that? So my mom was very, like, young, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she is.
So yeah, teenager-ish,
Sure.
Absolutely. We had our teenage friends around, and mom was like sneaking down at midnight to cook, you know, quesadillas for us and stuff like that. And it wasn't like sometimes I do things for the kids because I'm a mom. But then there are times where I goof around with, especially Dorian, because he's at that teenage boy stage, where it's fun. It feels like teenagers again. It's got that fun feel to it. And there is a difference, you know, between, like, it's almost like you slip out of mom mode for a little bit, and it's
really
a young
get to
teenager.
experience teenagedom with Dorian.
I
He's
know.
just so, like, Zoe.
No, he does. You just see
I'm working so much.
Yeah,
I miss it.
know.
Yeah, I gotta get down there.
And when he's with you, he's like, you know, talking business, and, you know,
True.
like, with me, it's, I'll bring, but I do stuff on purpose.
I mean, we bond over the business stuff. Like, but
yeah.
I always worry, like, he just can't, and that's why you and him are so similar. Like, he can't get out of a performance mentality. So it's like, he sent me this thing, and he's like, look at this, Dad, it's 6% MSRP, you know, because he's standing up his little Amazon store. I mean, it's gonna be very big pretty soon here, but, like, and I'm like, whoa, bro, and he's like, yeah, what do you think? I'm like, holy shit, that was a good find, bro. And then he found this other thing, and that's gonna generate, and you know, and I'm like, I was like, holy shit, and I'm like, this is great, but it was kind of, I could tell, like, he was like,
It was too.
you know,
Yeah,
like, do you approve of me,
yeah.
that type of thing, and it's so hard with Dorian, because it's like, he's exactly like you. He doesn't get the concept of, man, I just love you because it's you, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Like, he just, and I think there's things that, you know, have perpetuated that idea, certain experience, you know, being abandoned as a kid is extremely, like, unless you've been through it, like, it's an extremely painful thing that really reorients how you view the world. It makes you, you know, not want to lose the other one. Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah.
And so it's a very hard, you know. So it's hard to, like, and maybe I'm overanalyzing it, but like, he's we're having this moment. It's like, oh man, that was a good find, and we just can't celebrate the purity of the moment of like, hey, because I'm thinking to myself, like most kids at 15 years old, like the big thing they're celebrating is the home run at the end of the game. That's when I was in sports, I didn't have my dad there, but when I was in sports, like I was, like I was an important part of the team, and there were times that I'd had a game-winning single or I'd make a crazy catch or something like that, and you'd hear the whole crowd go, "Oh my God!" And like to have my dad in the stands would have been a pretty cool moment in those situations. Dorian, he doesn't have that type of disposition. Like he's not. It is hilarious because he was really into football. He was really into football. We'd go out there, we would practice. He was really, really grinding on that football thing. Yep. And, but then when it was time to play as a team, forget it. He couldn't do it. And I said, well, if this is the way that you are not made for team sports. I thought he was gonna be like, all right, I need to change this aspect. He was like, no, you're right. And he was done. Like he never, he's like, I can't. He doesn't like situations where he has to depend on other people to come through. Like he can't, he wants to, he's got to have it himself. Like, you know what I mean? So, so it's like, okay, so you got to accept that about him. And like, this business thing is a thing that he can do himself, and he can do his own hunting, and he can find his own deals and do the math himself and all that. And it's like, okay, so what he found today was basically the equivalent of a grand slam. He had something, and it was just like, man, I wish it could just be just a moment where we're just celebrating and that's it. But there was that like, and maybe I'm reading into it, but there was that whole like, do you approve of me, blah blah blah, and I don't want him to connect his value to, how much money he's making or whatever, but that's kind of where he's at. I just think that, I'm ranting here, but I just think that the intangibles of like unconditional love, that's not something you can quantify or look at. And so like, I think like that's all he had, and a parent left or whatever. And so like now he wants everything like, this is what I'm contributing, this is what I'm doing, this is what makes me worthy of being, whatever. And it's one of those things that's tough to see in your kid. But fortunately, I know what that's like, and I know what that feeling is like, so, I can relate to him on that level. But anyway, having kids is a hell of a thing, man.
He's doing, we can cut this out if you don't want this in there, but today he was doing better, because normally if he like misses his mom or whatever, like he'll just get in a really grouchy mood, and we have to like piece together what's going on. Right. But today he was like, you know what, Mom? I said, what? He goes, I think I missed my mom today. I said, oh yeah? And I smiled, and he goes, well, why are you smiling? I'm like, well, I thought it was good that he was progress. Able to, that was some progress for him. Yeah. So. Yeah, and it was really interesting because something popped up, and you invited his mom up yesterday, and he was really weird. And I had texted him like, yo, you guys okay? Like, are you good? Whatever. But yeah, no, I agree. Like he could do this song, yeah, for her. I mean, shout out to homegirl, like no disrespect, but well, there you are, dear listener. What do you get the song? Oh boy, that's a tough one, because it was really weird. Like I said, it made my skin crawl. But
it was a very strange song, and at the same time, I'm like, these guys must have been like the sleeper influencers of probably hundreds of bands.
It was like a weird feeling. So I've been doing this thing where you like, when I made the turkey, you like take the skin up and you put stuff underneath it, and it kind of made me feel like somebody was doing that to me.
That's good art. That's extreme. That's disturbing as hell. Holy moly! What do you get song?
Oh man, I don't know. It's probably like a 9.6.
This song was like,
I wouldn't listen to it again.
There's like a 3, like let's say there was a wall with like a 3-inch like circular like entryway, and
Yeah.
you somehow stuffed your entire mass into that entryway, and then you got through on the other side, and it's like this vast land of like. That's what the song was like. It was like very. It was a very like. It just opened up so many different areas, and lyrically and sonically.
interesting.
That, like it seemed like a regular song, but it was not a regular song. Like you like. If you took the time and you were patient enough to listen to it, which is one of the reasons I love the Patreon picks, is because they're terrible for the channel in the sense of like views or whatever.
The comments, people are like, why do you keep listening to
Yeah,
these
people get
songs?
so angry. They're like, "Why are you listening to these songs?" They'll listen to
Main
like
ones.
a giant Metallica one. They're like, "Finally, you guys are back to." It's like, guys, there's like literally thousands of reaction channels, bro. But like, it's stuff like this where it's like, yeah. Even if you never you listen to the song again, you experienced it in the moment. You see what I'm saying? And like that's the thing that I love the most. I don't express it a lot about Patreon picks. So I don't want people to feel bad if they can't do Patreon. But that's my favorite thing about it that I really appreciate. And,
$1 at the gate gets you in.
yeah, $1 at the gate gets you in. But if you can't, I mean that's okay. But shout out to Drew and all the Patreon crew folks. So
Shout
anyway,
out to
shout
you.
out to you guys. This is a
what did you give it?
9.7 for me.
Pretty close to the same score.
Did
All
you
right.
give it?
9.6.
There you are, dear listener. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.
Hey villagers, this is Archero and I'm inviting you to the Village March Madness Tournament. We're doing this as a fundraiser and to get together as a community and have a little bit of fun. If you're not familiar with March Madness, it is a 64-team college basketball tournament. The teams all play in single elimination round tournament style. Final winner is going to be the national champion. There's going to be a page set up on the ESPN website where you can make your guesses who's going to win each game. And we'll have a private group set up just for our village to compete against each other and see who predicted the winners best. To participate, it only costs $1. And all of that is going to go to help other villagers who are in need right now. This is all going to be happening in mid-March. More details are coming very soon about the dates, prizes, and how to join. I'll see you guys there. Keep it metal.